Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Ripaldi Umar Batistuta. I will be the moderator for Amira Nuraini in his paper entitled Student Perceptions of New Technology, Duolingo for Learning and English Vocabulary. So for Amira, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. And here I will present about student perception of new technology, Duolingo for learning English vocabulary. Next slide, please. And here are the table of contents. The first, abstract, second, introduction, the third, literature review, next, methodology, the fifth, result, and the last, conclusion. For the abstract, this study goal is to examine how students feel about using Duolingo to learn English vocabulary. The qualitative method was used to design the study. In the study, data was gathered from literature research. The data in the study were analyzed using some topic-related articles. Next slide. Next, introduction. In an effort to provide quality while also facilitating learning, media is used in education. Using the software is an essential component of student-acceptable interactive learning. Duolingo is an excellent tool for learning a second language. And the research question, what are students' thoughts on using Duolingo to learn English vocabulary? Next, literature review. The first, according to Sartre 2015, defined vocabulary as knowledge about words and their meanings. Vocabulary is the fundamental skill that students must master before moving on to reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Next. While Duolingo is a website and app for free language learning, Duolingo, according to White 2014, because they translate is an online education platform that enables users to take unrestricted language course. As stated by their website, Duolingo creates a world with free education and no language barriers. Here the methodology. This study used a qualitative approach which described the opinions of the student using Duolingo to learn English vocabulary. Next, the data collection technique used in the study is literature research, and the research is descriptive in nature. So here is the result. Duolingo is a well-liked learning tool and the future of language learning. Claims Wilbert 2016. Duolingo is an option to answer visual, audio, and grammar questions. The method used to deliver learning material is enjoyable, according to Putri and Islamiati 2018, because the Duolingo application system has a variety of features, including games that give users the impression that they are learning as they play, and visually appealing audio accompanied display. Next, the objective of Duolingo. First, to provide user with free language instruction in other language. Second, to improve one ability, words and sentence from the user native language are translated into English. And the last, capable of writing the appropriate word on the appropriate image. Next, students' perception of using Duolingo. The Duolingo application was simple to use. Next, teacher and student got benefit from collaborative learning activities, and Duolingo app is helpful. And the conclusion is the Duolingo application will make language learning more exciting and enjoyable. As a result, it can aid students expanding their vocabulary in English. The article concludes that student opinions of using Duolingo to learn English, particularly vocabulary, are positive. It has numerous advantages for assisting student learning process because it can make student English skill better, simpler to use, fun, and encouraging. And here are some reference I use to make this paper. Next. Okay, I think it's enough from my presentation. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. In this opportunity, me, Amira Nuraini, as the moderator for Rivaldi Umara Batistuta presentation and his paper with the title Exploring the Impact of Roleplay on EFL Learner Speaking Proficiency and Confidence. For Rivaldi, time is yours.
Okay, so hello everyone. So I'm going to present my research paper entitled Exploring the Impact of Roleplay on EFL Learners' Speaking Proficiency and Confidence. So here are the contents of my research. There are introduction, theoretical foundation, methodology, finding and discussions, and the last is conclusion and suggestions. So, background of the problem. Speaking is a crucial skill for EFL learners to master as it the most direct way to effectively communicate in the target language. Being able to communicate in English is vital for academic and professional purposes. However, many FFL students find speaking is challenging due to various factors, such as grammar, vocabulary, pronunciations, hinder their ability to learn speaking. Moreover, speaking anxiety is a significant obstacle, leading to reluctance to participate in class and limiting practice opportunities. One effective teaching method to address this challenge is roleplay. Roleplay involves students to assuming different roles and characters and engaging them in simulated conversations or activities, making it interactive and participatory technique in education and teaching language. So there are two research hypotheses. The hypothesis 0 is there is no impact of using roleplay on EFL learners speaking proficiency and confidence compared to those who do not use the technique. And the hypothesis 1 is there is impact of using roleplay on EFL learners speaking proficiency and confidence compared to those who do not use the technique. So here is the theoretical foundations. We start with speaking definition. Speaking is a method of expressing thoughts, information, and emotions to other individuals. It is the most crucial way for the speaker to express him or herself in the language. Speaking is a fundamental means of expressing thoughts, informations, and emotions to others, and is important aspect of language ability. The ability to speak a language effectively involves accurately processing, sending, or receiving information while focusing on aspects such as pronunciations, grammar, and vocabulary. So the second theoretical foundation is students' problem in speaking. Students commonly face issues such as low confidence, inadequate language proficiency, and limited vocabulary. Additionally, students tend to rely on their native language for various reasons. They may use their native language when unfamiliar with a subject if the teacher doesn't emphasize the English for speaking, or if the teacher uses the student's native language to create a comfortable environment. However, this can lead to unequal participations and dominations by a few fluent English speakers in the class discussions. They believe that using the mother tongue hinders English language skill development is further supported by research showing that the students often feel anxious about making mistakes, facing criticisms, or feeling embarrassed. So the next thing we're going to discuss is role play. The definition is role play is a term to describe activities which a uh, person imitates another person by doing what if they are where someone else shoes by Mogra 2012. In FL classroom context, role play is a teaching and learning technique that involves students in interactive and experiential process of simulating real life situations. The organizations of role play. Before conducting a role play, the teacher needs to consider certain essential organizing concepts to ensure the effectiveness as speaking exercise. The preparation is the key. And the next is teacher should create a script or scenario that provides a context for the dialogue and allows students to practice using the language in a realistic setting. The scenario should strike a balance between being open-ended to encourage creativity and linguistic development. The teacher should also emphasize the importance of role play to students to ensure their understanding of grammar, sentences, conversations, evaluating students' performance, and also can be done by asking about their roles, considering the aspects such as tone, accuracy, fluency, and gestures. Providing feedback in these areas can help students to improve their language proficiency and identify their areas of weakness for further development. Research methodology. So for the research methodology, my favorite is using a quantitative experimental research design. So participant is divided into two distinct groups, the experimental group and the control group. 28 undergraduate students from Sultan Ageng University from the same class region Indonesia. Data collections and analysis. This study employs a survey methodology, utilizing an experimental design approach to gather primary data through survey. The data collection involves distributing survey instruments before and after the experiment, also known as pre-test and post-test. In this research, I compared the result of pre-test and post-test to discover if there is any impact on role play on the students' proficiency and confidence. I use the t-test using Microsoft Excel to determine whether there are a significant influence or not. So here are the findings. So as you can see, there are improvement in the in the uh, in the subject after and before the treatment or using the role play. Student speaking skills is improving when they apply the role play method. It is possible to see that the impact of role play method is increasing the student speaking ability. There are significant influence of role play method towards student speaking ability with the acquisition of the count is 7.27 for role playing method and the value of significant is 0.05 with 2.16 nil for the T table because the value of the T count is 7.27 is larger than the T table, then the hypothesis 0 is refused and the hypothesis 1 is received. So the researchers can state that there is a significant influence of the role-playing method in increasing student speaking ability. And the next is conclusion and suggestions. For the conclusion, this study concludes that role play is valuable tool in helping students who struggle with fear of being mocked to their fluency or confidence speaking English. Role play allows them to participate conversation by taking on different personas, thereby increasing their engagement and involvement. For the suggestions, it is recommended that all students actively participate in learning activities, and the teacher should employ teaching strategies that encourage students to speak up and improve their speaking skills. Role play can be an effective method to achieve this goal as it engages all students and makes the learning process more enjoyable. I think that's all from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ripaldi Umara Batistuta. I'm going to moderate Lala for her research paper entitled The Challenges and Strategies in Teaching English for Students with Disability. To Lala, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Aldi, for the moderate. Okay, I'm Zalatul Fadila. I would like to present my research paper entitled is The Challenges and Strategies in Teaching English for Students with Disability. Next slide, Ali, please. So this is the purpose of the study or background study. There are the purpose of study is the aims. Okay, everyone. So the purpose of the study is aims to exploring the challenges and the strategies in teaching English for students with disability. Next slide, Ali, please. So there are some points in background of study is every child has an opportunity to get an education with their own needs, including children who has abnormalities such as mental and psychical disorder or disabilities. In Indonesia, there is a law that we can conclude that every child without exception has the same right to get an education, including children with disabilities. Therefore, the government provides convenience by having free schools and special institutions for students with disability. As a result, every child can get knowledge from education such as science, social, culture, and so on, including English language as a subject needed by humans nowadays. English is one of important subjects that children need. English is very beneficial for their lives. With the development of technology, learning English can be accessed very easily, especially now that the use of technology such as on laptops, computers, and gadgets also uses the English language system as a word language. Therefore, it is very important for every student to learn English, including children with special needs. Yusril and Amin state that English is important in technology, politics, economics, business, international diplomacy, science, and many more. So that English is required even for students with disability. Currently, English learning is a compulsory subject to learn in high school, universities, and even schools with special needs. However, there are still several difficulties in implementation of the teaching English to disabled students. With all their uniques, of course, students with disabilities have differences in from normal students. So Muslim states differences Muslim states there are many obstacles that occur when teaching English for students with disabilities, such as how to make them understand. Students with hearing impairment will have difficulties when communicating, pronouncing, and using vocabulary and translation. So as a teacher, teaching English as a foreign language for disabled students is more challenging than normal students. Nur Cahyo said, teaching for students with intellectual disabilities is absolutely difficult because student disability and normal student is different. As a result, teachers should professional when teaching disabled students to achieve learning objectives. In addition, teachers require to more patience and readiness to deal with all conditions to make the material can be presented well. Based on explanation about the background of the problem above, so researcher interested to find out what the challenges and strategy that faced by teacher and what the strategy to teach English to disabled students. Next slide, Aldo. So there are research questions here. The first is what difficulties do teachers face when teaching English? And the second one is what the teacher's strategy to teach English to disabled students. So there are literature review is definition on English teacher. English teacher is the most crucial elements in the teaching English language to students. It means English teachers must have the specialization in English and leadership for curriculum development in the subject according to Brindley. So as a teacher, English teachers should have an expertise to explain the material and providing students with knowledge, give students information, and teachers should encourage students' motivation to develop students' ability to understand the material. So the role of English teacher. The role of English teacher is, there are many more. A teacher has a main role in teaching and learning process. So Harmer assert that teacher can play a variety of roles in the classroom. Disabled students. Disabled students have many uniques. However, infrequently it uniques makes students face problems, especially in learning. According to Howard and Orlansky, disabled children are children who have abnormalities or deviations from their condition. Disabled students are different from other normal students. There are many differences between students with disabilities and normal students, such as characteristic, mental, emotional, psychical, and social behavior. Definition of teaching English to disabled students. Teaching English to disabled students is a process how teachers help students in learning English language for their needs. So the next one is principle of teaching English to disabled students. So there are some principles of teaching English to disabled students. Firstly, in create an atmosphere rich in language. And second one is tailor instruction to teach students speed, provide the students with activities towards success, design lesson to include hands-on activities, adapt the learning assignment to the needs of the students by breaking it down into smaller assignment. And the second one is change up the exercise both within and between lessons. And then use a lot of drilling, memorization, and practice of the subject matter. And the last one is when educating, use lots of tactic and visual aids, including image and objects. So the next slide is methodology. This study used qualitative descriptive approach. The researcher was conducted this study on May 9th, 2023 at SKH Mataul Anwar Menes. The participant of this research is Nanda Maulana as a teacher in this school. The researcher used face-to-face interview to collect the data. The next slide, please. So the difficulties, the result and finding, the researcher find out the difficulties. There are classroom management, lack of communication skill, and teachers are difficult to control students' mood. And the strategies, the researcher find out the strategies is understanding students' character, use an appropriate media, teacher encourage student motivations, and the material is related to daily life. The conclusion. In this chapter, the researcher present the key points from the overall discussion in this study regarding the challenges and strategies faced by English teacher in teaching English to students with disabilities. There are several challenges in this research, namely classroom management, lack of communication skills, and difficulty controlling students' mood. Therefore, English teacher must have a strategy for teaching students with disabilities. The strategies that the English teacher has in this school are understanding students' character, use an appropriate media while teaching, give students motivation, and use the material that related in their life so students can understand easily. I think enough from me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Ripaldi Umara. I'm going to moderate Abdul for his research paper entitled Reading Models for Effective English Reading Teaching. For Abdul, the time is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Abdul. I want to here to present about my paper with title Reading Model for Effective English Reading Teaching. Next slide, please. For the introduction, the survey result show that the ability to read English among middle school children in Indonesia is still low. One reason is the lack of an effective learning model in teaching English reading. This study aimed to find an effective learning model teach English reading to middle school children. Next slide. Background. Reading English is an important skill to have in the current era of globalization. Middle school students are a group that should be able to master English reading skill well. However, the survey results show that the ability to read English among middle school students in Indonesia is still low. One reason is the lack of effective learning model in teaching English reading. This study aimed to find an effective learning model to teach English reading to middle school students. It's believed that the finding of this study would help teachers create efficient instructional model for teaching English reading to middle school students. Next slide. Research method. Both qualitative and quantitative methodologies are used in this study. The quantitative method was used to get information on the improvement in English reading abilities following the intervention, while the qualitative method was utilized to gather information on student separation of English learning model use. Next slide. Bisa dapat bawah. Nah, research finding. According to the data analysis finding, Indonesian middle school student English reading abilities can be improved by using a text based on learning model and the active reading technique. Students can better grasp the text they read and improve their English reading skill by actively participating in the learning English. There are some restrictions on this research. So first off, because the study was limited to a single pass at the middle school in the Tangerang. The finding cannot be applied to the entire population of Indonesian middle school students. The conclusion of this study must be valid by additional research with a bigger sample size because it's solidly case study methodology. Next slide, please. In the conclusion, the study Study conclusions. Students can improve their reading abilities by utilizing a learning approach that is focused on text and active reading techniques. This is consistent with finding of past studies, which show that using engaging and creative learning strategy can improve The adoption of text-based learning methodology in this study is considered beneficial because it can help students understand the text content and expand their vocabulary. Active reading strategy can also assist pupils in reading and comprehending text actively. Next slide. This is the reference I use. Okay. Next slide. Thank you. Anyone to ask? Okay, if there's no one to ask, thank you for time and goodbye.